All right, folks, good Monday afternoon, and I am your host here once again, Reverend Savannah Treewalker of the Order of Standing Oak, and Theophilus Jessup of Raven Temple of CX Wicca. And you're with me here for part 2 of our series on creating a Wiccan ritual. Today we are going to be talking about your altar and preparing for ritual. So one of the most important things that you need to think about is, for your practice, is what are the elements of ritual that are important to you? How do you feel about the gods and goddesses and things like that? Because everybody has a different style or a different form that they like to use for their altars. And one of the most important things is your altar is going to be reflective of what you want to accomplish in your ritual, whether it's communion with the gods or bringing magical energy into yourself or your coven or your group. So there's many different things that need to be kind of categorized in your mind to be comfortable with the process of setting up your altar and getting ready for ritual. One of the things that I find very important to think about is I consider a person's altar or a group's altar, it's their place that they make communications with the universe, the gods, and the spiritual world. So with it has a lot of power innate within it, that it builds and builds over the years as we practice more and more and more. And like I said in the last episode, part 1, ritual design elements, like I said, your altar can be small, big, little, out in the woods, anywhere that you want it to be. I'm just talking with you today and showing you our altar. This is the altar that we use for Raven Temple CX Wicca. And we're going to kind of talk about what the altar is like. One of the first things is it's a place we use it to store our magical tools and things. We have an area underneath it that we have candles and herbs and incense and all kinds of things that we use. So this is a way to keep everything close together and ready to be utilized at any time. Next, we have our altar cloth. And our altar cloth, we have many altar cloths. We have this green one because it's springtime. We just recently celebrated Beltane, so we've got this whole vibe. We've got other altar cloths and stuff, and we use those according to the season and whatever it is that we have going on. So you can have altar cloth as simple as a sheet that you like, or some pieces of lace and all kinds of things. The imagination, you can make your own altar cloths. Many witches do, many Wiccans do. So that's one good thing right there. And then you look at what the altar is itself. The altar is the place where you represent the world and the connection with the gods and everything in between. And we're going to talk about this altar today. Now, what I do as soon as I get the altar cloth on, I start to build the ritual space by quadrants. If you look to the left, you'll see that there is a deer head statue. Next to that, in front of that, is the sun and moon with the 8 sabbats. That's our emblem for the tradition of CX Wicca, which was created by Raymond Buckland in 1973. And then we have a chalice and we have anointing oil. Okay, so this is the male energy of the side. This is dedicated for Woden. And then in the center of the altar we have our unity candle at the back. In the middle is our green Book of Shadows. And I recommend that, like I said in the other episode, to, you know, have something, some kind of journal that you can write stuff down. Then one of the more important items that are there on the altar is you see our athame. This is the ritual blade that we will use in the next segment of this series, where we're going to talk about, we will be talking about casting the circle and calling the quarters or inviting the quarters to ritual. So the athame is very important. Now we look at the right side. And the right side, we have the incense bowl. We have our incense block burner with the long sticks. We have a candle snuffer. We have a bell that we use for ritual. And then behind that is a statue of Danu that we use for a stand-in for Freya. Now, on other things that we use, but I didn't want to clutter up the altar too much, is we have salt and water, and we also bring something for cakes and ale. We'll talk about cakes and ale because once we get into actual demonstration of the ritual, that will be one point that we will make known to everybody, and you know, go from there. But so, having said that, you can put stones, flowers, divination items, which we usually put runes and our tarot cards on here. And everything in between. Your altar is yours. But the main thing is, you know, to get it ready. Now, once you have your altar set up and you've got things written down about how you want to do your ritual and stuff like that, it's like now it's time to prepare yourself for ritual. How do you do that? And one, I do not recommend eating heavy meals on the day of a ritual. Eat normally, but don't go like eat a 12-piece bucket of chicken, you know, or whatever. You know, go lightly. Bread and honey and water throughout the day. Awesome way to prepare for a ritual. Also, take a shower. I recommend just using an unscented soap. And then once you are done showering, get your appropriate clothing, whether it's a robe or a dress or a tunic or whatever it is that you want to have. You get that together next, and you kind of get yourself in the mindset. You kind of meditate for a little bit if you would like to before the ritual. Meditate on and visualize what the purpose is of your ritual and stuff. It's kind of like getting yourself psyched up to get in the circle and to work the magic and to do the things that you need to do to have a successful ritual. So having said that, it's like you just want to take everything slow and stuff. And whenever you do get ready to actually perform your ritual, two things I recommend. Cut off all the lights in the house, except for having, you know, a flashlight or something, and have your lighters and stuff ready to light your candles and things like that. And I also highly recommend that you shut off your phones, put them on vibrate, and put them somewhere outside of your ritual area. I don't recommend any kind of electronic devices inside of a ritual circle, but put everything outside and get yourself together, and then make one last check to make sure that there are everything needs to be there, your items for cakes and ale, the whole 9 yards. And like I say, it's up to you to just take it slow and just realize that this is something that, you know, that you can do. Some people are afraid of ritual. Don't be afraid. And this is what you do. First thing you do is get your altar ready. You get yourself ready. You get yourself ritually clothed. And then you come out and you do the ritual. And we'll be talking about that in the next video that we'll put out. And that we'll be talking about casting the ritual circle and calling the quarters. And then after that, we'll get into other videos in the series. I want to thank you guys for checking this out. Do yourself a favor, if you're just now finding this, look at the first video in this series and check out the other videos in our channel. Also, you can find us on Facebook, Raven Temple of Siax Wicca. You can find us that way. You can find Order of the Standing Oak. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, Sylvanus93, Sylvanus 93 at hotmail.com. And I just hope that these videos are helping you to understand just a little bit more about what a Wiccan ritual is and stuff. And so we've got this next portion, taking it, and we're going into the real beginnings of the ritual with casting the circle and calling the quarters. So until next time, this is Reverend Sylvanus Treewalker saying blessed be, and I'll talk to you later.